So thank you very much, Daniela. I'm talking more about the details of the Iceland project in the Geopark. And after Daniela gave a nice overview about the Geopark. So on the first slide, you can see the, Julia, please, the next slide. The activities in Austria. So you saw before the Geopark is quite big area, and we were choosing 6 sites all around the Geopark. And because of the limestone geology, the Geopark has a very interesting wetland landscape. The wetlands are mainly based at the bottom of the mountains. So, and we found very different wetlands there. 6 sites were selected all over the Geopark, and we did ecological monitoring on all the 6 sites. So we were looking firstly at the vegetation, then also we recorded the birds, and then we focused on amphibia and dragonflies, because these are typical species which can be found in the wetlands. What we also did was to sensitize the communities on 5 of the sites, and then we did pilot measures and implemented them on 4 of the sites, and also follow-up projects were planned on 2 of the sites where the measures are somehow too big to be placed as a pilot measure. So maybe if you see the first site is a very big wetland there. It's the Wildenstein Marsh. And it's around 12 hectare size of marshland, and around it has some part of wet forest, and also some very small part of cultural fence, which is at the eastern side. And then what you can see here is that the land ownership is a bit complicated, because the ownership is divided into very many small plots. So many private farmers own a bit of the marsh, but also a nature conservation agency owns one of the plots. And the marsh is, yeah, you see, full of water, but the water level is a bit changing during the years. And also within the last years, it seems that the wetland is getting drier. So this is one of the big problems at this wetland. And so amphibians do not have enough water in springtime when there is the spawning season. So maybe we go to the next slide. So here you can see the monitoring results briefly. So we found 9 different amphibian species, which was a very good record for those in Austria. So one of it is the Alpine crested newt. Then we also found the moor frog, and which is also a bit special. And then other type of newts and common frog, common toad. So the most common species were there. And also what we found was from the bird side, around 14 bird species and one of the typical wetland species was the gray heron. It was feeding on the frogs there, so then the nutrients chain is, you can see it there. And there were also nice dragonflies, for example, the migrant hawker and the large red damselfly, which is typical for this wetland. On the small part of the culture's fen, we found the bird eye primrose. But this is not maintained anymore, so this is another topic. On the next slide, you can see the measures we proposed there. So one of the most important measures is to secure the water level at this marshland to keep it from drying out. And what the amphibian expert proposed was to establish some ponds for amphibians at the corner, at least, of the marshland, because it's not as accessible in the middle. So suggestion will make it drier in future, but for the time being, it is proposed to dig some ponds, at least, that the amphibians are able to spawn. Then another measure was to cut the bushes in the fen part and to prepare it for mowing again. There is, the challenge there is that the landowner stopped mowing because he does not need anymore the grass. And this is some of the, I think some of the reason for this lack of maintenance is that this type of hay is not needed. So we are trying to convince the landowner that to allow and also to allow to dig the ponds there. But this was one of the challenges at this site. So a follow-up project is needed here. And also for digging ponds, this year especially is a very wet year. So it would not be feasible to dig ponds at this year. So we have to wait for a drier year to implement the amphibian ponds. So if you go to the next slide, please. The next is the Sonnegfen in the community of Sittersdorf. It is also a very huge wetland. It's also around 12 hectare size, and it has very different vegetation patches. And we concentrated on the southern part of it, which is a mixture of calcareous fen and a Molinia meadow. So this part is still was still maintained until 10 years ago, and then also farmers stopped to mow it because they do not need anymore this type of grass and the type of hay. And it's the last open part of this very huge wetland. So it would be worse to mow it and to keep it up. And so the ecological threat there is overgrowing and this stop of maintenance. The rest of the wetland is either already a reed belt or it is already developed to forest. On the next slide, you can see the monitoring results there. So what we found there is very nice vegetation. We also found the 9 amphibian species which were typical in Austria. So in the geopark, so besides of the common toad, the grass frog, the agile frog, then again the moor frog, and some of the newts. At this site, we also found a tree frog, which is already a bit rare in Austria. And then we also found 26 bird species, which shows that the wetland is very diverse from the structure. So it offers good habitat for different bird types. Also, in this case, the marsh warbler is the one which is typical for the site. Then we found 17 plant species, a lot of sedge grasses, and also orchids like the Dactylohyza incarnata, the flesh-colored orchid, and also Menianthes trifoliata, the feverfew, which are typical wetland plants, which are also a bit rare already. Then, also some nice dragonflies. So one of it, which is endangered already, is the blue-winged demoiselle, Calypteryx virgo, and the other one, the yellow-spotted emerald, Isomatochloa flamo-maculata. It's also a rare and endangered species in Carinthia. And the next slide, you can see the attempts for restoration. So pilot measures were implemented at these sites. The first was a workshop on invasive species with 40 teachers. So part of the overgrown wetland at the edge of the wetland where it is not very wet, there is already goldenrod growing within the wetland and around the wetland. So together with the 40 teachers, we did a workshop on invasive species, and they started mowing the goldenrod there. Also, there was a second action, mowing the goldenrod with some volunteers of the nature conservation agency called Natopia. So some children during the summer activities helped in removing goldenrod. And then there was a third action also in together with the community of Sittersdorf. We were removing the willows on the pines in January this year, and we could remove the bushes where the wetland is overgrown. So additionally, there we prepared these documents for permission of for the administrative body to dig some amphibian ponds there, and also to initiate the mowing activities again. And the last pilot measure was to sensitize the community, and by writing an article for the community newspaper. So a lot of work was done in Sonnegamore. And the next slide, you can also see that there are follow-up activities organized already and in place. So one thing will be to reinitiate the mowing regimes. It took a lot of effort to convince the landowners there that they allow, because also this very small part of the big wetland is divided by many landowners. Every landowner has a very small stripe, and this makes it a bit complicated. Then the processing the area with a remote controlled motorized tiller will be the first action or the next action. And after that, at least mowing can be organized for the next year, so that it will remain open, and the place where the orchids grow can be maintained. And additionally, 6 amphibian ponds will be implemented all around the wetland. So on the next slide shows the third site. It is a small wetland also in the community of Sittersdorf. It belongs to the church and is at the moment maintained by a nature conservation agency. But it has the problem that the half of the wetland is overgrown already due to stop of maintenance. And the other half is already a very big area which contains just of reed phragmites and the invasive species goldenrod. So coming to the measures on the next slide, first the monitoring results show that it's a valuable, very small wetland. There are a variety of insects there, especially butterflies, but also others, a lot of spiders, what we have seen there. And also around 20 bird species, because it's a nice place next to the forest and next to mowed, maintained meadows. So this is also ecological, very valuable wetland rest, let's say. And also there are 12 plant species like Schönus ferrugineus, which is a typical plant for the cultural fence, and also Molinia, which starts overgrowing the place. So from the bird side, especially the red-backed shrike is mentionable, because it's a typical bird for these habitats. And especially when the habitats are very good structured, then this bird can be found, and is one of the European bird mentioned in the bird directive. And also a lot of others which show the good, high quality cultural landscape. Then at the next slide, we propose some measures. So one is to extensively mow the invasive species to get rid of it. It's already overgrown, very a big area. That's why it needs some machines. It's not possible just with pilot measures with some volunteers. And also the pruning of the shrub vegetation to keep the areas open. What we wanted to do is to bring back the area into a mowing regime, like also in the other side on Sittersdorf, and then to do preparation for the remowing with this motor tiller. So at the moment, at this site, we are in the stage to negotiate with the landowner and to prepare this permission with the authorities. And some pilot measures were implemented. At the next slide, you can see that it was only one short action. Around 40 small spruce trees were removed in February by our colleagues. Then at the next slide, you can see the fourth site. It is Lake Birkdorf. And this is this very artificial swimming lake which is in the community. I think, I don't know, it's not here now. Feistritz of Bleiburg. And it is a cultural fan at the edge of it, at the northern corner of the lake. And also there is a rough pasture on this very small island. So it is a touristic place, but the northern edge is a bit natural. And it has an ecological thread, which is one is the intensive mowing of the riparian zone. So it is mowed like a lawn, and it should be left a little bit more natural. And there is also a high fish population in the water. And again, invasive species are there on the island. So on the next slide, you can see the monitoring results. At least here are 3 amphibian species because of the fish. It is only common toad and grass frog. And I think the tree frog was a little bit outside. And then there are 17 dragonfly species. Again, this blue-winged demoiselle, but also the emperor dragonfly. Both of it are, can be found in such environments. Then from sides of the birds, mentionable is the Eurasian red warbler, which is in the small reed belt there, and the yellow iris, which is one of the plants, which is a protected plant. And going to the next slide, you can see the pilot measures. So here people from Geopark help to remove again the solidago, the goldenrod, and they also convinced the people not to mow intensively, at least to leave a little bit of natural shoreline. And the last was to sensitize by preparing an information panel, which is at the moment in the digital state. Also here, a follow-up project was created. So 2 additional amphibian ponds should be dug there to ensure fish-free ponds for the amphibians. So this is under negotiation with the landowner also. Then coming to the 5th site is the Lavamün swimming lake. This is a small lake next to River Drau in Carinthia. It's a very big river, and there is a swimming lake next to it. And there are 2 small ponds. They also start to get overgrown, and that's why we propose some measures here. Maybe if you come to the next slide, you can see already that the monitoring results. So there are 3 amphibian species again, because also here there are fish in the ponds, and when there are fish, there are no amphibians, or at least just the common ones. Then there are 11 dragonfly species. Here also the green-eyed hawker, and again the blue-winged demoiselle, which is a nearly threatened dragonfly, but could be found in all of the wetlands in this in the geopark. Then again, 30 bird species could be found, and here mentionable is the kingfisher. This is a very young one here on the picture, and it's a nice species, typical also for the river next to these ponds, and so this habitat is valuable also. And then there were plant species found, very many, but just some of them are typical for wetland, or the others are typical for the cultural landscape next to the ponds. So also what you can see here is the freshwater jellyfish, which was found in the swimming lake. It was a sensation for the children. So in the next slide, you can see the measures. What we did was to sensitize the children of the summer school. We had an action raising awareness and sensitization. The summer school had 1 day full of fun and nature education. And also the school will continue with this project. They will look for species there. And what they also did is they worked on the bamboo, which is an invasive species there. And they removed the bamboo, they learned how to use the saw, and they had a lot of fun and prepared an insect hotel also. And on the next slide, you will see additional measures which were done there. So the invasive species control goes on, the removing of the bamboo, which overgrows part of the pond. And the next action was to cut the shrub vegetation, which was just this week. We could convince some people from the Geopark and also from the community of Lavamünd to come in and help removing a bit of the bushes next to the ponds, so to bring in more light, which makes them more attractive for the dragonflies again. So further actions will be visitor guidance and sensitization. And now coming to the last is the pond in Einersdorf. It is a small pond. It is just temporarily full of water. And we saw it's a nice site for amphibian also. So on the next slide, the monitoring results, we show that there is also the frog again, the common frog, and the agile frog was there, and the common toad, and or only the two. I think the agile frog was not there then, and certain bird species and 26 plant species. And you can see the pond is drying out in summer, and sometimes also in spring, which is too early for the amphibian to survive. So on the last slide, I think we are coming to the last. The pilot measure was basically to sensitize the neighbors about dumping organic waste there. There's again invasive species and garden plants which were growing next to the wetland. And then, the aim is to preserve the species worth for protecting, and to seal the pond with clay to keep the water level in the springtime, and to implement the conservation. Was not possible in the scope of this project of the pilot measures because it was also a private pond. But what we did, we got some nice data for this place, and a follow-up project for restoration needs to be prepared. Now coming to the last. So for summarizing our results, the project has started at least a focus on wetland in the Austrian part of the Geopark. It helped to get in touch with the respective landowners and the communities and to start sensitization on the topic. Then we could establish nice contacts to the communities, so they are interested now in wetland protection. Also, valuable monitoring data were collected, and some pilot measures could be addressed and implemented on the sites. Some follow-up projects are also planned and will be implemented to address the bigger restoration topic in the near future. And at the last slide now, Julio, please, can you bring the last? We had some lessons learned also. A monitoring topic in the area is invasive species, which really need to be addressed in future. Then the second major topic is the stop of maintenance due to socio-economic changes. The third major topic in the Geopark in the Austrian side is the change of hydrology. So there are dry springs, and because of climate change, the wetland protection needs good ecological data, but especially the communication also and lobbying for the wetlands. And it takes a lot of time and effort to talk to stakeholders about the value of the wetlands. And it is still needed to sensitize about wetlands in the area. So the handbook, I think, will help to that. On regular action, only one regular action per the site a year would help already to maintain the habitats in the good conditions. That's what we also found out. So thank all the volunteers for their support, and thank you for their attention.